Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. Well, I kind of have some more thoughts on Gypsy Rose. I was pretty much in her camp. I was all excited for her, gung-ho, and I thought, this girl had such a horrible life for, 23 years, and, yes, she did a horrible thing by convincing this ex-boyfriend now to unalive or murder her mom. But some of her recent interviews, specifically one I'm going to go through a bit with Viall, she kind of said a couple things that I was like, huh? Because I wanted to believe Gypsy was taking accountability, and I still want to believe that. But she did say a couple things that make me wonder if there's still a lot more work to be done within herself. And she does mention in his interview, I am going to link obviously to him. Please check it out if you haven't already listened and you are interested in Gypsy Rose, her case and her situation. And her new husband does make an appearance later on in the interview. She does have a therapist. She talks about it, and then also I guess she's working with one, or she's trying to work with one with her husband. And she definitely, I feel like this is something she definitely needs, and she's got, she seems like she's got good folks around her. She's got her father, her stepmother, her new husband. Like I said before, I really hope she is surrounded by these great people. But, her on social media, there's been a little bit of, I'm a little unsure about, I'm wondering if she's trying too hard. Again, I'm just getting a little wavering on her. A couple things that she said did really kind of throw me off. And one really kind of threw me off because it's not like anything else she's been saying in her documentary or anything else. So I don't know. Is that her real thoughts on it? Makes me think so. So let's check it out. I am just going to sift through. I got a couple timestamps to go through. And as always, I will link to the complete interview in the information of this video.
And her deceit and her ability to manipulate so many people. Mm-hmm. And a kind of a through line or a common question throughout the documentary was kind of, how much of Gypsy's mom is potentially still in you and mm-hmm. what you learned and, those behaviors. Mm-hmm. Do you think about that? And is that something that you've actively tried to mm-hmm. overcome?
Of course. I lived with her for 24 years of my life, and she did things in her life. She shoplifted. There was fraud. There was a lot of things, criminal activity that she was doing that I grew up in. I watched her do all these things. So for me, it is a conscious effort to, go back in my mind and realize that is the wrong thing to do. This is the right way to do things. I'm reprogramming myself, and it takes a minute. I have a pretty clear knowledge of right and wrong now. The obvious stuff. Mm-hmm. But for the things that maybe aren't so clear or the lines are maybe a little blurry, I do have a wonderful dad and a wonderful stepmom and a wonderful husband that I can ask them questions like, hey, what do you think about this? And also I'm in therapy. So I talk about it with my therapist. I'm very raw and honest in saying, hey, I know that this was not a normal childhood. I'm the product of someone that was very deceitful. How do I prevent myself from falling prey to being like her? I don't think I'm like my mother at all. I try actively not to be.
Quite honestly, from everything I've seen and just a little bit of getting to know you, mm-hmm. to me, it's the effort. It's the awareness and mm-hmm. the acknowledgement and just the ability to recognize the challenges you face, mm-hmm. to recognize and even admit sometimes it can be scary as a victim to mm-hmm. acknowledge what's happened to you. So the fact that you're even doing that is, I think, inspiring, and it says a lot about the effort and progress you've made.
Thank you. I try.
I do agree. This one here, I actually do hope that she is got the help that she needs, which is why I mentioned that before we started going through this video. And obviously Nick brings it up saying he sees that she's doing that effort. I think when she does say that she's not like her mom, I think it's really hard to not be like her mom because that's who she's been around. And she got she was addicted to painkillers that we learned. And she actually took that through her prison at the beginning. And she discusses that in the documentary. Since she was about 16 years old, I believe it was, she was addicted to painkillers. And then, you have that and her mom's influence and the way she was living her life under under Dee Dee's roof and living with Dee Dee is has to affect her tremendously. So it's not so much that I don't think that she's making the effort. I think it's kind of really ingrained in her. It's almost in her DNA that she's a manipulator. And I think that she's somewhat like that. We've seen a bit of that come out. I think to a certain extent it's not dangerous, but it could become dangerous. And, we saw how dangerous it truly was, with Dee Dee and her being a manipulator and her having the Munchausen by proxy. So, again, it's something that I really hope that she's going to do everything in her power not to just go through that solo. She's going to need every single bit of support that she can, and especially a therapist, in my opinion.
And despite what Nick did to you and your mother, do you have any empathy for him being in prison and what he has gone through?
I think that we both, like him and I, both have a lot of regrets. Obviously, I wish that this would have never happened this way. Now, for him specifically, I did my time. I know he's doing his time for his part of things. I hope that whatever he does with his future, because he is spending the rest of his life in prison, I acknowledge that I am the reason for that. However, I don't feel either that it's a situation where it's a sympathetic type of situation.
Okay.
And I mean, the reason why I say that is because in my past relationships, I've had 2 relationships since I've been incarcerated. And each one of my exes and even my husband is like, baby, if you would have asked me that question, if you would have said, hey, can you kill my mom to get me out of this situation? They would have said, no. Okay, no, we're not doing that.
Let's go to the police.
Let's go to the police. Yeah. Okay.
Here's the one issue with that, Gypsy. Nick is not well in the head. He's on the spectrum, but he's also, you've talked about it in your documentary, your recent one, in pretty good depth. He has like alter egos. He's very into this like Victor, this alter ego. So I think you did manipulate him, and I think you do need to come to accept that you did manipulate him because he was not quote unquote normal. He had some issues of his own. So I think he was easier to manipulate than, your current husband or your ex that you had, your ex-fiance. So I do think that it's not completely the same situation if he was more rational of a person.
I'm gonna get you out of this situation, but let's go to the authorities, all right? And we're gonna do this the right way. Nick did not say that. He has these dark fantasies. He wanted to do it. It was a fantasy he lived out, and he's paying the consequences for that. So with that being said, it's neither here nor there in my opinion, what I think of the situation. It's just, it is what it is.
Have you been able to, come to peace with that night, or have you relived that night over and over in your head? And
I still suffer from, PTSD and trauma. I keep reliving this one nightmare over and over again, and it's tied to that night. It's tied to the house.
Are you able to share that?
So yeah, and I've had actually 2 nightmares that reoccur a lot. So the first one, my therapist said, is attributed to the guilt that I feel for not reaching out to other people. to help me out. So the first one that I have is I have a cell phone. I'm in my dream. I'm holding a cell phone and I'm trying to call my dad. And the number, for some reason, I can't get through to him. The number doesn't work. The phone is turned off or whatever it be. I can't get through to him. And I have that nightmare again and again and again. And then the other one is about that night. And I keep on going back into that house and just feeling very frightened. And, the murder just happens again and again and again in my mind. Like I'm free physically, but I'm not free from the trauma.
And I don't think she's going to be free from this trauma ever. It's granted she lived a horrific life. Her mother put her through horrible, horrible things. And she had no right to do that. But at the same time, Gypsy, she manipulated Nick into murdering her mother. I think if Gypsy would have done it herself, and for those that are not aware, she did pull a gun on her mom years before the murder. When she was 20 years old, she tried, she made plans to run away, but Dee Dee caught on before she had a chance to leave the house. And they had a confrontation, and at that point, Gypsy spotted Dee Dee's handgun. She had a handgun in her safe in her bedroom, but she had used it to practice shooting earlier that week. And she grabbed the gun and she threatened her with it, and she pulled the trigger as many times as she could. So she actually did attempt to, if not kill, very gravely injure her mother earlier. So again, though, if she would have actually been the one to kill her mother, I think it would have been a different story. And instead of that, she manipulated what seemingly a mentally sick guy into doing it.
You started this conversation, you were referring to other interviews, and that one interviewer just calling you a murderer.
Yes.
Do you feel that way about yourself, or do you feel more as if that you're a survivor?
I don't associate myself as a murderer, because if you think about it, yes, I had a part to play in it. I asked Nick for help. And how that conversation started was, he was saying that he would protect me from anyone. I said anyone. He said yes. I said even my mother. He said yes. And then the plan kind of formed from there. But he's the one that did the actual kill, not me. I can't kill anyone. That's why he's in trouble to begin with, because he's the one that did it. So when they say I'm a murderer, I don't identify as that. I'm an accessory. Absolutely. I'll take, yes, I did that. I am an accessory to murder. However, that doesn't define me. I did my sentence. I did my part. I did what the judge wanted me to do. Now that that's over, let me live my life. Let me reinvent myself.
Absolutely.
Give me a chance.
Yeah.
Because before I didn't even have that chance to begin with. So let me show you guys who I am as a person before you just start slapping labels on me.
This statement that she doesn't take responsibility besides being an accomplice, that is my major problem with Gypsy at this point. I think she backpedaled a bit, because she needs to take, just because you didn't do the actual killing, Gypsy, doesn't mean you're not a murderer. You manipulated Nick into killing your mother. You manipulated a not mentally stable guy that you fell in love with, and he fell in love with you. That he's not rational, and that doesn't make it right that he did it either. But the fact is, you are as much responsible for the death of your mother as anyone. So I think that to me kind of like threw me for a loop, that she's throwing it completely at Nick's lap. And I'm not saying that she didn't do her time and all that. But I felt like hearing that, it just makes me feel like, Gypsy, you need to realize, listen, you're more than an accomplice. If you're a bank robber, and just because you're the getaway car doesn't mean you're not still a bank robber. So, I mean, it's the fact remains you helped plot it out, and that there's a video that you sent to Nick showing him where your mother laid, and you did stabbing motions with your hand. Stabbing motions. So and you got the knife. You stole the knife from Walmart. So it's really, really difficult for me to be okay with what you had to say here. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like, you need some more work, obviously, with your therapist. And I think you just need to accept that, yeah, I'm a part of a murder, and I'm a murderer. I did my time, yes. And, and as long as you take responsibility, I think people will be a lot more accepting. I mean, we understand you went through hell, and nobody can understand that. But at the same time, you're not just an accomplice. You planned it out. You did all this stuff. So, just because you hire a hitman, it doesn't mean you're not guilty of murder. Basically, I do wish you the best, though. I mean, I really do hope you can push through all this stuff, Gypsy. I really do. But it does kind of make me get on the borderline there. I'm on the fence hearing this interview with some of your responses here. So I hope you can be this social media, advisor, advocate. I hope you can be. I hope you can push through all this, horrible things that you've lived, and and move along. And I don't think you're going to have a normal life, at least not for a period of time. And the more you put yourself out there as a quote unquote influencer or what have you, I don't think that helps either. So I think it's a very difficult line. And I don't know, it just bothered me again that she said that she was not a murderer. And I think that she just needs to take more accountability, in my opinion. So, yeah. But let me know what you guys think of that. Do you think that she's kind of shrugging off her responsibility in the entire murder of her mother? Or do you think it's, you agree with her? Let me know in the comments what you think about, what she had to say here. Does it bother you as much as it bothers me? It definitely, like I said, it definitely changed some of my thinking on Gypsy right now. And I still hope for the best for her. I really, really do. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.